I never thought I'd be the guy writing about betrayal like this, but here I am. It's like something out of a bad soap, except it's real and it's my life. My wife Lisa and we'd been together almost 10 years. Quiet, predictable, the kind of relationship that feels safe because you never expect it to fall apart. We built a life, or so I thought. She was the kind of woman who always seemed to care, who always looked at me with those warm, honest eyes, until she didn't. It all started with that stupid family cabin we'd taken a few times. It's tucked away in the woods, miles from town, perfect for weekend getaways. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just us, nature, and maybe a bit too much wine. That place was our escape. But somewhere along the way, that escape turned into something else, something I didn't see coming. I was out of town on a business trip when I found the photos. I heard from my brother Mark first, way too casually over the phone. "Hey man, I found something you might want to see." His voice was uneven, hesitant almost. I could feel my stomach tighten. "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your wife, Lisa," he said. "She sent me some pictures of her at the cabin with someone else." That's when my world tilted. I begged him to send the photos. When they popped up on my screen, I saw her, my wife, leaning into someone else, her face relaxed, eyes half closed, lips pressed to his neck. It was unmistakable. The setting was familiar, the rustic porch, the scattered pine branches, the faint glow of sunset filtering through the trees. That was our cabin, our safe spot. And she was there with my brother. My fingers went numb. I couldn't breathe. My stomach clenched so hard I thought I'd throw up. I stared at the screen, burning the images into my brain. How long had this been going on? How many times? Was I just blind, or did I ignore every subtle sign? I felt the cold sweat form on my palms. My fists curled into fists, digging into my thighs so hard I thought I'd leave bruises. I called Mark back, voice shaking. "You're telling me she cheated on me with you?" I managed to squeeze out, "Yeah," he said softly. I didn't want to believe it either, but yeah, they were like that for months, I think. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Months, that's almost half the time we've been married, and I never saw a thing, or maybe I just refused to see it. That night I sat in my hotel room with the images looping in my mind. I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside my window felt like a dagger. My hands kept trembling. The betrayal was so visceral I could almost taste it, bitter, metallic, wrong. How could she do this? With him? At our cabin, the same place I'd always told her was our refuge. I kept thinking about the times she had looked at me like she loved me. Did she ever? Or was I just a fool clinging to a fairy tale that was never real? I didn't want to call her. Not yet. I needed a plan. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I couldn't imagine her denying it. She'd always been honest, or so I thought. But now I saw a different side, something cold and calculated. I had to find out if there was more. Was this a one-time mistake or something deeper? Either way, my mind spun with questions I didn't have answers to. The next morning, I woke up in a cold sweat, stomach churning. The adrenaline from yesterday's shock still coursed through my veins. I knew I couldn't keep quiet. I had to confront her. But I also knew I needed proof, something concrete that would shake her, break her down, and make her realize what she'd done. It was clear she'd been hiding things, lying, sneaking around. That wasn't just a fling. It was a betrayal that cut so deep I felt it in my bones. I started planning. I knew I couldn't just storm into the house and accuse her. That'd be a disaster. She'd deny, spin it, and I'd end up looking like the crazy one. No, I needed control. I needed to catch her in the act again, or at least find undeniable proof. I had to think like her, stay one step ahead. The photos were just the beginning. I'd find more. I had to. The feeling in my gut was like a boiling pot, anger, heartbreak, betrayal, mixed into one corrosive brew. Whatever I'd believed in our marriage, it was shattered beyond repair. But I wasn't just going to let this slide. Not without a fight. And I knew deep down I had to settle the score, even if it meant tearing my own life apart. I just had to figure out how to do it right. Would you like me to continue? I spent the next few days trying to keep my head clear, but that was a joke. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, her face, her laugh, how she used to look at me with that warmth. Now all I could see was her lying with my brother, those photos burned into my mind like branding marks. The shock had turned into a dull, simmering rage I couldn't shake. I knew I had to act, but hurried planning wasn't my style. I'm not the type to go off half-cocked. I needed to get more evidence, something I could hold over her head, something that make her realize I knew everything. I also needed to understand if this was just a one-time slip or something more ingrained. I couldn't afford to be reckless. Late that night, sitting in my hotel room, I stared at my phone. I thought about calling her, but the words caught in my throat. How do you even start that conversation? Hey Lisa, I found out you've been cheating on me with my brother. No, that blow the house apart before I even got a chance to lay out the facts. No, I needed something more subtle, something that make her squirm enough to crack. I remembered her laptop in the drawer at home. I'd seen her use it a few times, always quick to close the lid if I got near. I had to sneak in and find something, emails, messages, anything that could tell me how long this had been going on. I knew it was risky, but I was desperate. That's when the plan took form, a quiet, calculated move. The next morning, I called a friend of mine, a guy I knew worked in cybersecurity. I asked him if he could help me dig into her email account, maybe find some hidden messages or deleted files. I told him I suspected she was hiding something and that I needed proof. He was hesitant at first, but I convinced him. I paid him a small fee, and within a few hours he sent me a report. It was exactly what I expected: hidden chats, secret exchanges, plans that pointed to something serious. It confirmed what I already knew deep down. She hadn't just cheated once. She'd been sneaking around for months, maybe longer. The worst part was seeing the timestamps, aligning perfectly with our weekends away, the nights I was out of town. I felt my stomach turn again, hotter this time. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she betray everything we'd built right under my nose? That night, I sat down with her laptop and printed every incriminating email, every chat, every photo. I didn't want her to think I was just guessing. I wanted her to see I had proof. I wanted her to know I was serious. The evidence was damning. It was like an open wound I couldn't close. I didn't plan to confront her yet. I needed to get my head straight first. But I was already brewing my plan for revenge. The next morning, I saw her come out of the shower, hair still damp, lips glossy from her gloss. She looked so normal, so unaware that her world was about to shatter. I kept my face calm, even as my fists clenched. I knew I had to be careful. I had everything I needed, and that's when I realized I could turn her betrayal into a lesson she'd never forget. I had to make her regret what she'd done, without any violence, just cold, calculated retaliation. I started setting the stage. I'd let her believe I was still clueless while I secretly prepared my move. I'd invite her to dinner that night, pretend like everything was fine. Then I'd confront her with the proof in front of her, make her face her lies. But I also wanted to give her a taste of what she'd lost, something that'd stay with her long after she realized how badly she'd screwed up. I remember thinking, she's not just going to get away with this. I'd be the one to teach her that betrayal comes at a price. My mind kept circling back to that feeling, how raw and cold I felt now. I wasn't just angry, I was humiliated. And I was going to make damn sure she paid for it. The moment was close. I could feel it. I'd wait till tonight then. Everything would change. I was ready for her to see the storm I was about to unleash. And I knew with absolute certainty that she'd remember this night for the rest of her life. Would you like me to continue? That evening, I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down my shirt, trying to keep my expression neutral. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. Every part of me wanted to explode, to scream at her, to call her out right then and there. But I knew better. Patience was key, even if it felt like my skin was crawling from the anticipation. She arrived right on time, her smile bright, her eyes sparkling. She looked perfect, too perfect, like she was trying to hide something. "Hey," she said softly, leaning in for a quick kiss. "Everything okay?" she asked. That's when I saw it, the flicker of something in her eyes. A little too eager, maybe a bit defensive. She sensed I was different. Good. That was step one. We sat down at the dinner table, candles flickering, the faint scent of her perfume filling the room. I kept my voice calm. Measured. "Lisa, I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About us, our marriage. I found some things that don't add up." She looked at me, her smile faltering just a little. "What are you talking about?" I took out the printed emails, photos, and chat logs, laying them out slowly. "I know about the affair with Mark at the cabin for months. I have the evidence right here." Her face drained of color, eyes widening. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached out, trying to grab the papers. "That's not what it looks like, I swear." "No, Lisa," I interrupted, voice steady but cold. "It's exactly what it looks like. I've seen the pictures, the emails, the texts. You lied to me right in my face." I watched her try to speak, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "How long has this been going on? Were you planning to tell me? Or did you think you could keep it secret forever?" She looked away for a second, then back at me, tears welling up. "It was a mistake. I was stupid. It didn't mean anything," she whispered. But her voice sounded hollow, rehearsed. I didn't believe her, not anymore. I felt a flash of anger, hot and sharp like a blade slicing through my chest. "You think you're going to come out of this clean?" I snapped. "You betrayed everything we had, our vows, our history. And for what? A few fun nights with my brother. Do you even understand how much you've destroyed?" Her shoulders shook with silent tears. "I never wanted to hurt you," she managed to say, voice trembling. "It just happened. I was lonely, stressed. I didn't know how to tell you." I shook my head. "That's bullshit. You lied, you cheated, and you did it with the one person I trusted most. The guy I thought was my brother. Turns out he was just waiting for the right moment to stab me in the back too." Her eyes widened with shock. "You can't be serious. You're doing all this because of some pictures. You think revenge will make this right?" I leaned forward, voice low and fierce. "Revenge? No, Lisa. This isn't just about revenge. It's about making you understand. You're not just some innocent victim here. You made choices, and now you're going to face the consequences." I paused, feeling the weight of my words. "I'm done pretending. You're out of my life starting now." Her face crumpled. She looked like she was about to say something, but I cut her off. "No more excuses, no more lies. Pack your things and leave. I want the keys to the house, and I want you gone by morning." She looked at me with tears streaking her face, lips trembling. "Please," she begged, voice cracking. "Can't we just talk about this?" "Please, no," I said coldly. "There's nothing left to say. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." I slid the papers across the table, watching her stare at the evidence she'd never be able to deny. She sat there for a moment, then slowly got up, her movements stiff and defeated. As she grabbed her purse, I saw a flicker of anger behind her eyes, but she said nothing. Just turned and left the house without another word. Watching her walk out the door, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally confronted her, laid everything bare. But I knew this wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. I had to get my head straight, figure out what I was going to do next. Because I wasn't the kind of guy to let someone betray me and walk away unscathed. The house felt hollow now. Every corner, every silent room echoed her absence. I sat in my chair, staring at the door she just left through, stomach churning with anger, heartbreak, and a strange sense of clarity. I was done being the victim. If she thought she'd get away with it, she was dead wrong. And I knew from that moment I'd start planning my revenge. It was only a matter of time before she realized she wasn't walking out of this unscathed. "Would you like me to continue?" The house was dead silent after she left. I stayed on the couch, fists clenched so tight my knuckles ached. My mind was racing, trying to piece together what I'd just done, what I was about to do. I'd confronted her, laid everything bare, and now I felt this strange calm, like the eye of a storm. But beneath that calm was the same burning desire for payback, the need to make her feel what I'd felt when I saw those photos. I knew I couldn't just let her go, not after everything. She thought she'd walk away and that was the end of it. But I wasn't wired that way. She'd betrayed me so deeply I needed to reassert control, make her regret crossing that line. I didn't want some messy divorce or tears. What I wanted was her to understand that betrayal has a price. The first thing I did was go through our things. I needed every piece of evidence, every secret she was hiding. I sat in her closet, rifling through her drawer, pulling out old jewelry, hidden notes, anything that could tell me more about her double life. I found a few more hidden messages, things she thought she'd wiped clean. I memorized them. I wanted to know exactly what I was dealing with, how deep this went. By the next morning, I was ready. I'd already told her to leave, and I'd given her until the evening to be gone. Now I had a different game plan. I wasn't just going to make her pack up and leave. I was going to make her suffer in a way she'd never forget. I wanted her to see that trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. But more than that, I wanted her to understand that her actions had consequences. I started planning my revenge carefully. First, I needed her to feel vulnerable. I knew her passwords now, all the areas she thought were safe. I started sending myself copies of her messages, her emails, even some of her private photos. It wasn't just about revenge, though. It was about control. She'd taken everything from me, my trust, my peace of mind, so I was going to take something back, something she'd regret losing. I set up a few cameras around the house, not to spy on her, but just enough that I could catch her if she tried to come back or if she had any more secrets hidden. I also contacted a locksmith to change the locks the moment she left. That way, I'd be in control of who had access. I wanted her to feel trapped, not physically, but emotionally. I wanted her to understand what it meant to be betrayed, to be lied to be abandoned like this. That night, she came back to pick up the rest of her things. I was waiting in the dark, just out of sight. When she stepped inside, hesitating at the door, I turned on the lights slowly. She looked around, eyes wide with confusion. I didn't say a word, I just stood there, arms crossed, watching her. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice trembling. "Because you pushed me to the edge," I said coldly. "You thought you could get away with it. You thought I'd never find out. That's why I've been preparing." I stepped closer, voice low. "You've been lying for months, sneaking around, playing me like a fool. Well, I'm not gonna let that slide." She looked like she wanted to say something, but no words came out, just tears. I kept my gaze steady. I knew this wasn't just about her leaving, it was about her understanding she'd lost everything. I wanted her to feel helpless, just a little. That's when I handed her a small envelope, an envelope full of all the evidence I'd collected. Her emails, the deleted messages, the photos I'd saved. "If you try to come back," I said, "I'll be ready. You've hurt me enough. Now it's my turn to make you regret it." She stared at the envelope, eyes brimming with tears. She looked so fragile, so broken, but I knew better than to feel guilty. She made her choice. I'd given her every chance to be honest, and she'd thrown it all away for some fleeting pleasure. Now she was going to face the fallout. That night I changed the locks, shut down her access to everything, and blocked her from my social media. I wanted her to know I was serious. I was done being the fool. As I watched her walk out the door for good, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with rage. This was only the beginning. I wasn't going to just let her betray me and then walk free. All I could think about was how I'd turn this pain into power. Revenge wasn't just about hurting her, it was about reclaiming my life. She thought she'd destroyed me, but I was going to prove her wrong. And I knew, deep down, this was the moment I'd finally take control and start healing. Would you like me to continue? The days that followed felt like a blur. I stayed in the house alone, feeling the weight of everything she'd taken from me and everything I was about to reclaim. Every hour I thought about her, what she'd done, how she'd betrayed me, and how I was finally going to turn the tables. I'd spent years building a life with her, believing she was my partner, my confidant. Now all I had was a pile of evidence, a broken trust, and a burning need for justice. That evening, I set my plan into motion. I knew she'd try to reach out, probably to make some pathetic plea or maybe even try to manipulate her way back in. I wasn't interested in forgiveness, not yet. I needed her to see that her actions had consequences. The moment I saw her attempt to contact me, I'd be ready. I'd already contacted my lawyer, and we drafted some formal notices. I filed for divorce, citing infidelity, and made sure the paperwork was in the right place to serve her. I also contacted an attorney for the next step, something about her assets and any joint accounts. I wanted her to realize I wasn't going to let this slide without some serious repercussions. But the real piece of my revenge was something more personal. I knew her weak spots, her pride, her fear of being humiliated. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, and powerless. So I sent her a text, just a simple message. "I know everything. The proof is in the envelope. You're out and don't come back." I didn't sign it. I wanted to leave her guessing, feeling the weight of her betrayal crush her. Within hours, I saw her panic. She called me multiple times, left frantic messages, begging, crying, trying to explain herself. I didn't answer. I wanted her to know I wasn't playing anymore. Every time her voice hit my voicemail, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and disgust. She thought she could lie her way out of this, but I had her cornered. That night I sat outside on the porch, staring up at the stars, feeling the cool night air on my skin. It was quiet, peaceful even, but inside I was boiling. I couldn't sleep. Every nerve in my body was on high alert. I kept replaying her face, her desperation, her tears, and I knew I'd won a small victory. That feeling of control, finally having her at my mercy, was oddly intoxicating. Morning came fast and I was already making arrangements to move out of the house. I'd been talking to a lawyer about a clean break, getting everything sorted so I could start fresh. I was done with her, done with the lies. The only thing left was to make sure she understood she'd lost all trust, all respect, and any hope of reconciliation. I met with my lawyer that afternoon. We went over the divorce papers, the division of assets, and a restraining order if necessary. I handed over the evidence I'd collected, proof that would make her realize she'd burned her bridges. I told him to prepare everything so I could serve her the papers immediately. I wanted her to feel the full weight of everything she'd thrown away. When I left the lawyer's office, I felt a strange sense of liberation. I didn't cry or feel regret. I felt relief. This betrayal was the worst thing I'd ever experienced, but it also woke me up. I'd been a fool, but I was done being one. I'd take back my life piece by piece, starting with sealing her out completely. That night, I handed her the keys to the house along with the divorce papers. I left her standing there, stunned and silent. She looked like she was about to break, but I didn't care. I'd given her the chance to be honest, but she'd thrown that away. Now I was the one in control. As she drove away, I watched her go, feeling the cold satisfaction settle in. I knew I'd be okay, even if it didn't feel like it right now. What mattered was that I finally took a stand. I finally showed her what happens when trust is broken, when someone pushes too far. And the best part, I was just getting started. It's not revenge if it doesn't leave a mark, and I was going to make sure she remembered this forever. Because betrayal is a wound, but it's also the spark for a new beginning. I'd rebuild, stronger, wiser, and more careful about who I let into my life. Would you like me to continue? The dust had settled, or at least I told myself it had. I moved out a few days after handing her the keys, everything packed in boxes, ready for a fresh start. The house was empty now, save for the memories I'd forced myself to confront, the ones I'd rather forget. It was strange. Once that place felt like home. Now it just felt like a tombstone of lies. Every step I took away from that house felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I'd handed over the divorce papers, set everything in motion. Her keys. I tossed them into the trash without a second thought. I knew she'd try to come back, maybe beg or plead, but I was done. Completely, unapologetically done. That night I sat on the edge of my new apartment's balcony, listening to the distant sounds of the city. The air was cooler now, the city lights flickering like distant stars. I felt a strange mix of emptiness and relief. All the anger, the heartbreak, the betrayal, those feelings still lingered somewhere deep inside, but they didn't define me anymore. I had taken control. I looked back on everything. Her lies, her betrayal, the way she thought she could get away with it all. But I didn't let her. I'd turned her own game against her. I'd used her secrets to strip away her illusion of control, to make her see that her actions had consequences. That's what revenge is about, making someone realize they can't just walk over you and get away unscathed. And the best part, I'd learned something valuable. Trust isn't something that can be given blindly anymore. Not anymore. I'd been naive, yes, but now I understood that I needed to be more careful, more guarded. Not everyone is who they seem. And sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to take the pain, face it head on, and come out stronger. As I stared out at the city, I knew my life was about to change. No more secrets, no more lies. Just me rebuilding what I'd lost, one step at a time. The pain would fade, but the lesson would stay with me forever. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches strength. And from this I would rise. I picked up my phone, looked at the blank screen, and finally allowed myself a small, bitter smile. I was done with her, done with all of it. Moving forward, I'd be wary, yes, but I'd also be wiser. Trust might be fragile now, but I'd rebuild it piece by piece, with the scars of betrayal as my reminder. And as I took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill my lungs, I knew one thing for certain. I was finally free.